Joliet, Illinois, January 10th, 2013. You ever heard a 5-year-old describe the best superhero movie he ever saw? This is how I envisioned him to be speaking with the police. Quote, "You know those movies where the badass comes in and takes over?" Unquote. That's what Minor says jokingly. He was reliving probably the most exciting thing he has ever done in his 24 years of living. He spoke of how the dead bodies made noises. He described it as a gasping sound. He said it was almost zombie-like. He added how the bodies excavated their bowels. He sounded proud. So, it would be at Elisa's house, 18. Her and her boyfriend, she's been knowing for years, Josh, 24, was there. Along with them was Adam, 19, and Bethany, 18. Adam is described as a follower. He had only known Josh for a week before these murders happened. Adam's mother is also a sergeant, so he's a cop kid. So they're all sitting around the house playing video games with idle hands, as my mother would say. But they wanted to get high. They wanted alcohol, marijuana, cigarettes, and none of them had any money. How about robbery? Bethany decided to call a guy she knew. She said he was a drug dealer and always had $100 on him. So she called Terrance up. She promised him sexual favors to try to get him to come over. He fell for it. So they all plotted, planned, and waited on $25 apiece. So, was the intent to rob? Terrance, joined by his best friend, Eric, the two of them have known each other for 5 years. They would arrive to 1121 North Hickory Street. Bethany says she took her 1-year-old daughter downstairs and they sat on a floor in a small room while her setup plan went into action. Josh and Adam gave a signal, so she left. I'm not sure where Elisa was, probably watching. Almost immediately, Terrance and Eric were strangled. The autopsies report it was a violent strangulation. Bags were put over their heads. The best friends, both 22, had walked into their own invited double murder. They hogtied the friends, now deceased, and rummaged through their pockets. Bethany would get some of her earnings for a plan well done. She would drop her daughter off and get some gas and cigarettes, and then she would come back to the house on Hickory. Then they all left to buy cocaine and came back to the house. Josh started beating the men in the head with liquor bottles and kicking them. I suppose this was part of their amusement. Later on during the night, Josh put the bodies together side by side. He remembered one of his girlfriend's sexual fantasies was wanting to have sex with a dead man, and now there were two. This is the part where Bethany drew the line. She refused to stick around while Elisa had sex with 2 dead men. Elisa would leave and head to Kankakee. The sex tryst took place, and it was said that even Adam had joined in. This is all stated by Bethany. Do you realize that the entire time Elisa's father was in the house downstairs? The next day was like any other day. The three sat playing video games. I believe Bethany was still gone. Unbeknownst to them, someone had called the police and said the two dead men were in the house on Hickory. Now, I wonder who could have said that. The police arrived at the home. They could see movement inside. The young people were still inside the home playing video games. Upon their investigation, two deceased men were piled up on top of each other, face down, in Elisa's room. They would be arrested. Bethany was arrested outside Kankakee. Now, when people are faced with their freedom being taken away indefinitely, they tend to act differently. Everyone was supposedly scared of Josh. It's being said he was the one with the rap sheet. A child porn case at 16. He burglarized somewhere and he was sent to boot camp. So all this made the other three now afraid of him. Bethany would tell the stories of liquor bottle beatings, racial epithets, sick fantasies of him wearing the victim Eric's face, like the guy from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. She said while Adam was beating him with the bottles, he was yelling, quote, "If you were picking cotton, this wouldn't be happening to you," unquote. She told the cops that Josh was crazy, and if they hadn't all played along, they would all be dead. Yes, she admitted to getting some of the stolen profits. It was a total of $120. She said she got gas and cigarettes. She didn't call the police, but she did call her father. She needed help with getting rid of the bodies, so again, she called her father. In response, her father lied to her. He told her she shared in the blame of those two murdered. She told her father that she was probably in fear, The black guys were hitting on her and Elisa, and they were scared and they didn't know what to do. I'm pretty sure she didn't mention the blowjobs she promised that ended up in a robbery and double murder. Then she would put the blame on her father. Apparently, he kept kicking her out of the home. Excuses for being broke and homeless. She added while watching Josh and Adam kick and hit the deceased men over their head with liquor bottles, Alicia was making racial slurs as well, kicking and hitting the deceased. She said Josh urged her to join in the fun, so she kicked one of the dead bodies in the head for good measure. Then they all started kicking and beating the already deceased young men. The couple, Elisa and Josh, they talked about having sex with the dead bodies. Then they decided to have sex on top of the dead bodies. Josh put a beige sheet over the bodies and they laid on top of them, but they both admitted it was weird and they couldn't orgasm, so they would have sex next to the dead bodies. Now, Elisa would tell the police that she did have sex on top and by the dead bodies, but during her court trial, she refused to talk about it. I'm pretty sure she refused to talk about a lot of things. Adam, the son of the police officer, he would actually go back home and come back and bring a propane torch, shears, knives, scissors, and a hacksaw. It was discussed again about taking Eric's face. Josh liked the dreadlocks that Eric had, and he wanted to wear his head like a hat. This shit is all totally sickening. And it reminds you that 4 people coming into young adulthood had absolutely nothing to do with their life, but killed 2 people that they assumed might have had more money than them. It was Alicia's house and she couldn't stop things from happening. I mean, your father's there and you can't stop this from happening. It was Bethany's friend and she couldn't have just told him not to come or perhaps not even make that call at all. And Adam, son of a cop, what was he thinking? He can probably get off because he's son of a cop. 4 young people going into adulthood, and this is all that they could think about doing. Now, they were all sentenced between 2014 and 2015. Joshua Melner, that's the boyfriend. That's the one that wanted to give his girlfriend her fantasy of having sex with corpse. He would get life imprisonment. And now, years later, he's saying he has some type of mental problem. Yeah, I'm sure you do. And you'll just handle it in prison for the rest of your life. Adam Landerman, that's the one, the son of the cop. He also got life imprisonment as well. Bethany McKee, that's the one with the 1-year-old daughter. I mean, your daughter was there. She would get life imprisonment, but she's trying to appeal now. Matter of fact, they all are trying to appeal now. Now, as for Alisa Massaro, the one that was the girlfriend, the one that had the fetish of necrophilia, she got 10 years in prison. But with good behavior, credits, and turning on her friends and being a snitch, it was reduced to 3 years and 8 months. She was home just in time for her 24th birthday in 2018. Isn't that amazing? And these 2 young men, they never got to see 23 or 24. They were both killed at 22 years old. I hope the family and friends of these 2 young men feel like they got a little bit of justice for their loved ones. So this all happens for $120. 2 lives lost and 3 people that will never get out of prison. And 1 young female walking around that'll probably be in the news in the future. I'm pretty sure. As of 2014, it's said that the father still lives in that home on Hickory Street. Well, where else is he gonna go?